Have you ever heard of a king who possessed unparalleled wisdom, yet whose insatiable desire for women led to his downfall? This is the dark story of Solomon, the wisest, richest, and most powerful king in biblical history. He made Israel great, yet his heart was divided by his love for 1,000 women. This desire clouded his judgment and turned what could have been the most glorious reign into a cautionary tale. Solomon's story is a paradox of wisdom and folly, power and vulnerability. Granted wisdom by God himself, Solomon built a kingdom renowned for its wealth and splendor. Yet, behind the grandeur of his reign lay a labyrinth of political intrigue and spiritual decline, fueled by his marriages to 700 wives and 300 concubines. Each union, while politically advantageous, brought its own set of complications, challenging the very foundations of Israel's faith and stability. Let's see what led to his downfall. But before that, here is where the story of Solomon starts. Solomon's ascent to the throne was marked by divine favor and prophetic intervention. Born to King David and Bathsheba, Solomon's early life was shadowed by his parents' scandalous affair. To truly understand Solomon's origins, we must delve into the tumultuous and morally complex story of his parents, King David and Bathsheba. This story begins with a king's fateful glance and the tragic consequences that followed. King David, the revered monarch of Israel, was a man after God's own heart, known for his bravery, piety, and poetic psalms. Yet, even great men have their moments of weakness. One evening, as David strolled on the rooftop of his palace, his eyes fell upon a beautiful woman bathing. This woman was Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah the Hittite, one of David's loyal soldiers. Overcome by desire, David sent for Bathsheba and lay with her, despite knowing she was married. This act of adultery set off a chain of events that would have severe repercussions. Bathsheba soon discovered she was pregnant, and in a desperate attempt to conceal his sin, David summoned Uriah from the battlefield, hoping he would lay with his wife and believe the child to be his own. However, Uriah, out of loyalty to his comrades still in battle, refused to go home. David's next move was even more reprehensible. He sent Uriah back to the front lines with a sealed letter to Joab, the commander of the army, instructing him to place Uriah where the fighting was fiercest and then withdraw, leaving him to die.
Commander Joab, I order you to send Uriah to where the fighting is fiercest and abandon him there to die.
Uriah was killed as a result, and after a period of mourning, David took Bathsheba as his wife. However, God was displeased with David's actions. The prophet Nathan confronted David with a parable about a rich man who stole a poor man's only lamb, making David realize his sin. Nathan declared that the child born from this union would die as punishment. David repented, fasting and praying for the child's life, but the baby died soon after birth. In the midst of this sorrow and repentance, God showed mercy. David and Bathsheba's second son was Solomon, a child born out of a union initially tainted by sin, but ultimately transformed by divine grace. Despite this dark beginning, God chose Solomon for a great destiny, granting him unparalleled wisdom in a dream. Solomon's request for discernment to govern his people pleased God, who also promised him wealth and honor unmatched by any other king. Despite his early life being marked by scandal, Solomon rose to greatness. His wisdom did not prevent him from making decisions that would lead to his downfall. To secure peace and strengthen Israel's position, Solomon engaged in numerous political marriages. Each marriage brought a new alliance, and with it, new cultural and religious influences. His harem was not just a symbol of his power, but a political tool, binding Israel to surrounding nations through matrimonial ties. Princesses from Egypt, Moab, Ammon, Edom, and Sidon, among others, brought with them their gods and religious practices. While these alliances were initially beneficial, ensuring peace and stability, they also introduced a multitude of foreign deities into Israel. Solomon's palace became a melting pot of cultures and religions, gradually eroding the monotheistic foundation laid by his father, David. Solomon's love for his wives led him to build high places and altars for their gods, directly violating the covenant with Yahweh. This spiritual decline was a gradual process, beginning with small compromises and culminating in widespread idolatry. The king who had built the magnificent temple in Jerusalem now erected altars for Ashtoreth, Milcom, and Molech, gods of his foreign wives. Each altar and high place built for his wives' gods represented a step away from the worship of Yahweh. Solomon, once a paragon of wisdom and faithfulness, became ensnared in the very practices he was supposed to guard against. These foreign deities brought with them rituals and sacrifices that were abominations to the God of Israel, and Solomon's tolerance and participation in these practices further entrenched his spiritual decline. These actions angered God, who had appeared to Solomon twice, warning him of the consequences of his disobedience. The first warning came early in Solomon's reign, when God appeared to him in a dream, granting him wisdom and wealth. The second warning came after the completion of the temple, where God reminded Solomon of the covenant and the importance of remaining faithful. Despite these direct interventions, Solomon's heart was led astray. As Solomon's devotion wavered, so did his kingdom. His divided loyalty resulted in a divided kingdom, as God declared that the kingdom would be torn from his lineage, save for one tribe, out of respect for David. The promise of a lasting dynasty was now under threat, not from external enemies, but from within Solomon's own actions and decisions. The latter part of Solomon's reign was marked by internal strife and external threats. His once stable kingdom began to show signs of fracture. Jeroboam, a servant of Solomon, rebelled, and adversaries rose from within and outside Israel. The prosperity and peace that marked the early years of his reign were replaced by unrest and division. Jeroboam's rebellion was not just a political move, but a fulfillment of God's judgment against Solomon. The prophet Ahijah had foretold that Jeroboam would rule over 10 of the 12 tribes of Israel, leaving Solomon's son with only one tribe. This prophecy came true as Jeroboam gained support, capitalizing on the discontent within the kingdom. Externally, Israel faced increasing pressure from neighboring nations. Solomon's numerous alliances through marriage, initially seen as strengths, became liabilities as these nations saw opportunities to exploit Israel's weakened state. The once unified and powerful kingdom was now vulnerable, its foundations shaken by the very alliances that were meant to secure its future. The internal strife and external threats culminated in a kingdom on the brink of civil war. After Solomon's death, his son Rehoboam ascended to the throne, inheriting a kingdom in turmoil. Rehoboam's harsh policies and inability to address the growing discontent led to the secession of the northern tribes, fulfilling God's judgment and marking the division of Israel. The United Kingdom of Israel, once a symbol of divine favor and wisdom, was now divided, setting the stage for centuries of conflict and decline. King Solomon's story is a paradox of wisdom and folly, a tale of how the greatest gifts can be squandered by the greatest weaknesses. His life challenges us to reflect on our own values and the compromises we might be tempted to make. What lessons can we draw from his life to avoid similar pitfalls? If you found this video insightful, don't forget to hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more intriguing historical stories. King Solomon's story is not just a tale from the past, but a timeless lesson for us all.